In Suffolk County, England, there is a remote forest in the village of Rendlesham that has become famous for being the site of one of the most extraordinary UFO encounters ever reported. And some of those who experienced it believe this incident also involved time travel. The event occurred on December 26, 1980. Airman John Burroughs was performing a routine security check at a U.S. Air Force base when he received orders to investigate a possible downed aircraft.
My supervisor called me on the radio and asked me to meet up with him so we could check the east gate. We're driving down the road leading to the east gate to check on it when all of a sudden he saw some strange lights in the forest. So I decided to call it in and let him know something strange was going on. They decided to send one of the security units down, which was Sergeant Peniston. He got down there and he saw the same strange lights that we were seeing.
I could see all these multiple color lights and things like that, and the air felt different. I don't know how to really explain that, but it did feel like there was electricity on our skin and hair and stuff. But that progressively got worse the closer we got to the tree line, and it got more intense.
There seemed to be like an electricity-charged atmosphere, and then also there were points where it seemed like everything was going in slow motion.
As the servicemen approached the strange lights, Sergeant Peniston reportedly saw a large craft just beyond the tree line.
The craft was triangular in shape, measuring about 6 to 7 feet high, black in color. I had come around to the far side of the craft, and that's when I noticed that there was, inscription on the side. It is about 3 feet long, maybe 6 inches high. So I'm expecting to find, I don't know, some kind of prototype stuff, USAF. I'm looking for something very familiar. Instead of something familiar, I see these pictorial type glyphs, and got running my hand over the side of the craft. I don't know how to explain this. It's like someone was holding a picture up, okay? I could see it in my mind's eye. Zeros and ones. So I recorded those, one after another.
When Peniston touched the craft, he then said that he felt a strange download of information to his mind, and he felt compelled the next day to write down a series of zeros and ones, which we now regard as binary code.
Years later, a computer programmer took this information, ran it through a translation program, and a message emerged. The message read, "Exploration of humanity, continuous for planetary advance, eyes of your eyes, origin year 8100. When one sees origin year 8100, one is forced to speculate, might we be looking not just at extraterrestrials, but time travelers from the future?
After the incident, the U.S. military conducted a brief investigation, but allegedly tried to keep the eyewitnesses away from the press. But for Airman Burroughs and Officer Peniston, the event wasn't easy to leave behind. Both men had lasting physical effects from the encounter and even reported strange dreams.
After the incident, I started having throat and eye problems. At one point, my gums turned white. I also had vision problems, and when I went and saw the doctor, one of his first questions was, had I been ever exposed to radiation? I've definitely had dreams about it, and I still have feelings about what happened and what could happen in the future.
I got out of service in 1993. Then I was out about maybe 3 months, and then I started getting these dreams and nightmares. During the dreams, I could see that these were time travelers 40 to 50,000 years in the future. I see that the purpose to come back was to correct things, was to fix things. Something horrible has happened. Something they have to correct. But it requires time travel. It requires going back into the past. I've never had a feeling of it being extraterrestrial. It's always been that they were simply us in the future.
Could it be that the craft reportedly witnessed by James Peniston and John Burroughs came not from a distant star, but from a distant point in time? Sandreesloe, Wales, January 23rd, 1974. Late in the evening, this quiet rural village in the Berwyn Mountains is rocked by an enormous explosion. 14-year-old Hugh Lloyd is in his home watching television when he feels the impact, and then receives call after call from his neighbors, most claiming to have seen an incredibly bright light falling from the sky and then glowing on the mountainside. Today, Hugh Lloyd still works on his father's ranch in Sandreesloe.
Are you Hugh?
Yeah?
Ancient astronaut theorist Georgios Tsoukalos and Nick Pope, a former UFO investigator for the British Ministry of Defense, met up with Hugh to get his take on what really happened that night.
Can you tell us your experience?
Well, I was home with my two sisters and my neighbor. We were basically watching television, and there was this, like a thud. And next thing, the whole place started shaking quite violently. You know, this like earth tremor. And then we were all a bit stunned. We've never experienced anything like that before. And next thing, we went outside just to check the cattle and animals were okay. Got back in the house, and the phone started ringing. It was all neighbors and things, you know, saying, what the hell was that? Are you okay? You put the phone down, and another neighbor would phone.
Your neighbors called you to ask you if you're okay, so they pretty much had similar experiences?
Oh, yes, yeah.
So you're not the only one?
No.
And you were 14?
14
years old?
Yeah.
How did your parents react?
Well, they went home, they were in the next village, and they'd felt it there as well.
And what time of evening was this?
It was roughly 20 to 9.
So, you know, some people have suggested that, well, it was nothing else but an earthquake,
Yeah.
which I don't subscribe to this idea, but have you had any earthquakes around here?
Nothing like that, no. But at the time, they were trying to say that the lights people had seen were people with, what do you call them, lamping, you know, after foxes and
But
and
you
rabbits.
saw that light, and it was much, much brighter than people lamping. I mean, it was something almost blinding.
Well, I've never seen a light like it before, and I've never seen anything like it since.
Wow.
According to ancient astronaut theorists, what really happened in the Berwyn Mountains that night was the crash of an extraterrestrial spacecraft. Yucca Flat, Nevada, May 19th, 1953. At 5:05 a.m., one of a series of nuclear tests under the umbrella codenamed Upshot Knothole is set off. Within seconds of the blast, a disc-shaped object is seen rapidly descending from the sky, headed south toward Las Vegas, then disappearing into the mountains. Just 2 days after this event, government officials secretly gathered a team of scientists for a curious assignment. They were to investigate the crash of an unidentified flying object on the outskirts of Kingman, Arizona, a city 175 miles south of the nuclear test site.
There were 40 engineers that boarded a bus, and they took a long 3.5-hour ride from Phoenix to Kingman. When they got there, it was nighttime. There were MPs on all corners of the craft. It's about a 40-foot diameter disc-shaped craft that was perfectly intact. There wasn't a scratch on it. There were 4 beings associated with this craft, and they shipped it to Groom Lake.
Groom Lake is the Area 51 region in Nevada. When Area 51 was just bare bones, they took the craft and the aliens out to that location in the middle of the Nevada desert because it was so remote. And around that, they built Area 51.
Hidden within a ring of mountains deep in the Nevada desert, Area 51 is a top-secret military installation that has long been rumored to hold evidence of alien technology. And there are even stories that a special facility at Area 51 once held a survivor of the 1953 Kingman UFO crash, an alien entity known as J-Rod.
J-Rod is an alien who allegedly worked at Area 51 over a period of years, and it was J-Rod's mission or duty to help reverse engineer technology that was apparently from the 1953 Kingman UFO crash. J-Rod was one of the crash survivors and worked directly with our own government.
Captain Bill Uhouse, a former Navy pilot who later worked for the U.S. Air Force performing experimental testing on aircraft, was assigned to Area 51 in the mid-1960s. And he claims that he not only studied the craft that allegedly crashed in Kingman, Arizona, but also had direct contact with J-Rod.
We had a long period of introduction into meeting, you know, an alien. And I called him J-Rod. That's the name that the linguist gave him. And he would talk, but he'd sound just like, if you spoke, he'd sound like you. You know, he's like one of the, you know, a parrot, you know, but he'd try and answer your question, you know. Basically, it was only engineering advice or science advice.
There's also another whistleblower by the name of Dan Burish. And Dan Burish said that he was hired as a microbiologist to basically care for J-Rod, ensuring that he remained healthy. And this went on for years and years and years.
According to Dan Burish and Bill Uhouse, J-Rod was housed in a special underground chamber at Area 51. And there have been numerous other accounts of extraterrestrials working with the United States government. April 2011. The FBI releases thousands of files as part of its online FBI vault. One particular file draws the attention of the media and independent researchers. The memo, dated March 22, 1950, is a briefing to FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover regarding informant information about 3 flying saucers that were recovered in New Mexico. Investigators immediately connect the memo to the infamous Roswell incident, a purported UFO crash that many people believe was covered up by the military in 1947. But this document is just the latest in a series of government files that have been released in recent years, suggesting there may be more to the Roswell crash than the public was told.
As an investigative reporter, I think what I am amazed by is how many leaked documents from the 1940s have actually come out into the world and lay out details about what really happened at Roswell. On July 4th, a rancher named Mac Brazel finds all kinds of strange silver debris. He knows he doesn't understand what he's walking through. He decides to go into Roswell and tell the sheriff, something has crashed on my ranch. Intel coming out of Roswell Army Airfield get assigned to go to the debris field. And these men are told that they are to pick up every single thing that is in the debris field on the Mac Brazel Ranch. Everything is to be picked up.
On July 8, 1947, the headline on the front page of the Roswell Daily Record reports that the military had retrieved a flying saucer. But the following day, the official story is suddenly changed to suggest it was nothing more than a failed weather balloon.
Roswell was the home of the 509th Bomb Group. This was the only atomic bomb-capable squadron anywhere in the world. These people were the best of the best. The idea that intelligence personnel at this base would mistake a weather balloon for something exotic is preposterous. So that, arguably, is the start of the UFO cover-up.
Weather balloon, swamp gas, meteorite, it doesn't matter. It's always something else but a UFO. The Roswell crash was covered up. The fact that they retracted the story of having captured a flying saucer, in my opinion, it was quick PR damage control.
World was told, nope, just a weather balloon. And for more than 30 years, that's where it was left, until witnesses started to surface, saying, no, it was actually an extraterrestrial craft. And people saw alien bodies.
In April of 2014, ancient astronaut theorist Georgios Tsoukalos traveled to Walker Air Force Base in Roswell, New Mexico, to meet with the city's mayor, Del Journey, and to get a rare look at the hangar where the Roswell wreckage and extraterrestrial bodies were allegedly first taken.
Wow. This is huge.
So what do you think?
Man, I have goosebumps right now. I mean, we're walking on history.
It's amazing, isn't it?
And are you familiar where the spot is, where they actually
Well, you know, the information that I have says that it's probably right over here in the corner. They took them over there, did an examination of the bodies.
So this is where it was.
This is it. Yeah, come on in. They have the debris out here in the hangar area, and they bring the bodies inside this room.
I really don't know what to say, because, I mean, if this was it.
You're standing where,
yeah.
where extraterrestrial beings
might have been. Where did the debris go? Where did it end up?
Well, it ended up with the government, of course. And they have it well preserved in a military installation someplace.
Central New Mexico, October 19th, 2019. Investigative journalist Linda Moulton Howe has invited ancient astronaut theorist Georgios Tsoukalos to join her on a trip to a spot in the desert just outside Roswell, very near what is known as the skip site. According to eyewitnesses, one of the 3 UFOs seen in the sky in July 1947 first crashed to Earth near this location, then was propelled back into the air, skipping like a stone in a pond before finally coming to rest. Linda was contacted by geologist Frank Kimbler, who wants to show her mysterious metal fragments that he found here and search the area for more.
Linda, this is so exciting. I have not been here in a couple of years, so I'm really looking forward to meeting Frank.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that we've got a geologist who's helping, because the geologist looks at land and says if there is debris, there's going to be some kind of a drift with the land. And just from what I know, he has studied some areas meticulously.
Right.
Giorgio and Linda arrive at the skip site and meet Frank Kimbler, a local geologist and professor of earth science.
How are
Nice to
you?
meet you.
Good
How
to
are
see
you?
you. All right.
Frank,
Linda,
it is-
finally.
Yes, you and I have been chasing these artifacts.
Chasing
from
the metals,
UFOs for
looking for
so
the
many
looking for
years.
parts.
Yes.
Professor Kimbler has spent nearly a decade searching areas beneath the purported trajectory of the Roswell craft with infrared technology and metal detectors. Since 2011, Professor Kimbler has uncovered more than a dozen metal fragments that he has subjected to scientific testing and found to be highly unique.
That's what we want to go out there and see where you've been getting this.
Frank.
Yeah.
What's inside the case?
Oh, this is the magic right here. This is some of the material that I have found out here using a metal detector.
Interesting.
The stuff is very interesting. It's all twisted and mangled up, something that you would expect to happen from a a crash, is to have metal that's compact and twisted.
When Professor Kimbler laid out his box of his pieces of metal, the first thing that struck me is these were tiny, tiny, tiny fragments. Could they possibly be from wreckage?
These pieces are small, which is things that the government would have missed. They wouldn't have been able to find it.
And here's my magic. Let's get a comparison here.
Oh, look
This,
at that. Look at that.
Look at, it's like a snowfield. After all these years, all of the pieces, they look absolutely pristine. That's the magnesium zinc side.
This has got layers to it. That's amazing.
But I bet you've never seen anything like
this. Being an earth scientist, being a geologist, I've seen lots of all kinds of materials that are out there. I have never, ever seen anything like this. This fragment that Linda is showing me, that stuff is absolutely amazing. I've never seen anything like it before in my life. And what's interesting about it is that it has some layers, some banding on it. And that banding is very similar to some of the banding that I found in photomicrographs of the material that I have from out here.
I think as Giorgio is holding this, he's holding something made by another intelligence from someplace we don't understand, and this is truly extraterrestrial.
Is it possible that Giorgio is holding an actual fragment of an extraterrestrial craft? And if so, could even more incredible artifacts still remain in the desert outside Roswell?
Right now, we are roughly about maybe 2.5 miles from where the object skipped down. This is actually the disturbed area right here, which is right where we're going. And it's right where the eyewitness accounts basically says that the craft left a furrow. So you can tell that something went on. It even looks like there's a little gouge mark that was left by the craft as it came in.
The disturbed area that Professor Kimbler identified has become known as the gouge. In 2002, an archaeological dig was conducted in this area by the University of New Mexico, Albuquerque, to search for topographical evidence of a UFO crash.
They found a V-shaped gouge that seemed to indicate that something came down and skated across the ground, like a typical aircraft crashing into the ground, leaving a big furrow there.
Author Donald Schmidt, an advisor to the International UFO Museum and Research Center Board of Directors, took part in the excavation.
We flagged that area, did electromagnetic sensory testing of the site to sift through possible samples from the crash, all in an attempt to find a piece of that missing evidence that would demonstrate once and for all that this was something extraordinary.
The dig collected countless soil samples from in and around the gouge. But curiously, access to this wealth of potential evidence has been restricted by the Bureau of Land Management ever since.
There's 600 pounds of stuff stored in a vault in the Maxwell Museum at the University of New Mexico that nobody has looked at, and it needs to be looked at. We need to get going, and we need to get out there so you guys can experience finding some of this stuff, which is amazing.
All right, let's go explore.
So where do you think's best here now?
We're in the perfect spot, and we're gonna cover this whole thing right here.
Uncovering bits of debris in this vast desert is a daunting task. But after nearly a decade spent combing the entire area, Professor Kimbler has pinpointed certain hotspots. Some of the artifacts he brought with him today were discovered in this very location just within the past month.
So just above the area of the ground, we're gonna sweep back and forth like this. And we're gonna cover this side to side, back and forth, little by little. I've been out here 6 or 7 or 8 hours at a whack swinging this thing till my arms break off. We can cut across this way.
You're waiting for that beat.
We're looking off in this general direction out here. The craft basically either had some kind of mechanical failure or something blew up.
Professor Kimbler scans the area along the gouge, meticulously covering every inch. After nearly 2 hours, he has not detected any metal objects.
Giorgio, my arm is about to break off, and I'm kind of hoping that you just might have a little bit better luck than me doing
Let's
this.
see.
You saw what I was doing. It's already fired up, And
Okay.
I'm going to let you swing this, and we can
See if
just
it's
walk.
working.
There you
Great.
go. It's working
Perfect.
perfect.
Excellent.
Maybe you'll be able to get the magic flowing on this. Well, I think we need to head up right over here because this is right at the base of a hill, and there's a bunch of disturbed rocks. Might be a good place to capture material that has run off. Also,
Within just a few minutes of taking over the metal detecting, Giorgio gets a hit.
I heard something.
Yeah.
There is something.
Oh my God. There is something there, and we need to dig it up. Let me help you find it.
Okay. It's right here somewhere.
We'll find it. We will find it. You're on top of it. You're right there.
Right there.
See if it's there. It's in my hand.
Wow.
Now comes the hard part. It's a piece of wire.
All right. Okay.
A tiny little piece
wire.
of wire. We're gonna keep it. We're gonna take it and have it analyzed because maybe it's got something in it that's weird.
Let's still investigate this.
We need to take it and have it tested.
Giorgio hands off the metal detector to Linda, who continues along the gouge. Just a few feet from where Giorgio detected a piece of wire, they get another hit.
All right.
Pick up your bracelet too. I tell you what, let's dump it into this hand, right here. There we go. It's another piece of wire.
This is strange looking, though. Why is it so twisted and mangled?
I have no idea.
You said that if there was debris, this would be one of the places because of the geographic terrain right here.
It's runoff, and this is what I've used time and time again to find stuff.
As far as Giorgio and Linda are concerned, any metal objects found in the so-called gouge area are worth examining. Is it possible that these bits of wire represent debris from the 1947 crash that was overlooked by the military? The Roswell incident remains the most well-known UFO event in history. But there have been reports of numerous other UFO crashes all over the world, as well as the recovery of strange metal debris. In 1991, geologists searching for gold deposits in Russia's Ural Mountains made a highly unexpected discovery. At depths of over 30 feet, they found a scattering of tiny metal coils and springs.
Russian scientists are finding these tiny nanoparticles. They found thousands of these things. They have to look at them through microscopes. Some of them are just 1/10,000th of an inch, in size. They're all kinds of spirals and tiny machined bits. When they look at it, they seem to be exactly like the kind of tiny nanoparticles and machine bits that we are creating today.
What you see under the electron microscope is mind-boggling because you see spirals, you see definitely something where the scientists who investigated this came to the conclusion that these items are artificially made out of tungsten and molybdenum. And so that right there is incredibly interesting because that was found exactly at the skip site.
Molybdenum is the same material detected in the metal fragments that Frank Kimbler found in the desert outside Roswell. It is a super strong element commonly used in NASA spacecraft.
These microscopic spirals were made of wolfram and molybdenum. The melting temperature for wolfram is above 6,000 degrees Fahrenheit, and for molybdenum is about 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit.
Some version of NASA from some other star system could send a probe here to Earth, and it could fail and crash into Earth, and we would look at it and think, wow, where did this come from? Maybe one day we might be creating our own Roswell when we send our first probe to the nearest star.
Ancient astronaut theorists point out that dozens of visitors to the Ural Mountains have reported encounters with strange cigar-shaped craft trailing fire across the sky. Could this be the Russian Roswell?
Indeed, people living in the Ural Mountains maybe more often than people living in other parts of Russia, witnessed some strange phenomena in the air and on the ground.
Ural Mountains are a very interesting space in the paranormal history of Russia. And I've studied a lot because there have always been incredible UFO sightings in the Ural Mountains. There are stories of civilizations that have disappeared or went under the ground, the so-called dwarf people in the Ural Mountains.
If the nanoparticles discovered in the Ural Mountains are debris from a crashed alien craft, they bring up another intriguing possibility. Because based on how deep below the Earth they were found, they could have been deposited there thousands of years ago.
They're thinking that these things must be over 50,000 years old. So is this also a debris field from a crashed extraterrestrial craft in the Ural Mountains? There could be crash sites all over the world that are hundreds of thousands of years old, right up to modern times.
Rumors abound that there are facilities located all over the world holding the remnants of crashed extraterrestrial craft, like in the remote hills of China, at Pine Gap in Australia, and Rudlow Manor in England.
Who knows if over the chronology of the history of planet Earth, there were more craft, just like at Roswell, that crashed.
Rendlesham Forest, Suffolk County, England. 200 miles east of Rudlow Manor lies 6 square miles of woodlands that has become notorious as the site of Great Britain's most incredible UFO encounter. On December 26, 1980, near an airbase leased to the United States Air Force by the RAF, strange lights are reported on the horizon in what appears to be a possible downed aircraft. 2 U.S. servicemen are dispatched to the site. According to accounts, radios failed as they approached the targeted area, and the air itself felt electrically charged as they closed in.
Strange lights were seen about 300 to 400 meters away from an area what was called the East Gate. And the patrolling officers at the East Gate saw the lights above the forest, and they thought potentially it was a downed aircraft or an aircraft in distress. So 2 of them, Sergeant Penniston and Airman John Burrows, went further into the forest.
Once at the so-called crash site, the men observed a strange triangular craft on the ground, approximately 3 meters wide at its base.
It appeared to be either hovering or on legs, and it had clearly come down into this small clearing and smashed some of the branches off the trees. So there was physical evidence which was looked at afterwards. And so the men looked at this strange object.
I noticed that there was an inscription on the side of the aircraft. I was expecting to find, I don't know, USAF, something like that. And what I find is glyphs, pictorial glyphs, making no sense at all. And then I was running my hand over the side of the craft. It was very warm to touch. At this time, we were getting the feeling of electricity that was just bouncing. It was much, much stronger. There was this feeling of being drawn into it or being pulled into it. Like someone was holding a picture of zeros and ones in my mind's eye.
The strange vision Sergeant Penniston had upon touching the craft has made this one of Britain's most famous UFO encounters. But ancient astronaut theorists suggest that even more compelling is what happened after. The following evening, further strange sightings occurred, and also the night after, reported by U.S. Air Force Colonel Charles Halt. Colonel Halt led his own search party to put an end to the confusion. But instead of finding a logical explanation, they discovered high levels of radioactivity where Burrows and Penniston had previously seen the strange craft. and 3 impact holes in the ground. They then spotted a light in a nearby field that suddenly came towards them through the trees at high speed.
One of the people with me said, "Look there to the north." There were 4 or 5 objects in the sky. They were elliptical and round. They changed shape. They moved at very high speed, made sharp angular turns, as though they were doing some type of a grid search. One came at high speed, stopped directly overhead, 3, 4, maybe 5,000 feet, and sent down a concentrated beam about 8 or 10 feet from us. It was about 1 foot in diameter. I would describe it today as probably like a laser beam. We noticed the other object to the south sending down similar beams on Woodbridge Base. Apparently these beams were falling down into or near the weapons storage area. I was really concerned then.